Good morning. I'm Pat Croce, and this is the American Cancer Society's HEALED community gathering. HEALED stands for Health and Energy Through Active Living Every Day. And that's our mission here at the gathering, is to share with you information to inspire you, to inform you, to entertain you, and to encourage you to live healthier lives, not to suffer, and to be true to yourself in body, mind, and spirit. And we bring on great guests over the course of the next hour. But before we do that and share their wisdom, I'd like to take a moment of stillness, just a brief moment where we can all just rest, quiet our mind, be together. And I do that by bringing out this little Tibetan bell. And on the sound of the bell, all I ask you to do is rest your attention lovingly, gently on the sound. You can close your eyes if you like, or keep them open. Think of that sound as our doorbell to this gathering from the American Cancer Society. And we're all going to share this wide open, aware, loving, present space together, where vulnerability is not a liability, where it really is invincibility, because we always have people on who've been touched by cancer, specifically touched by cancer, or have been in touch with someone as caregivers. So there's never more than 1 degree of separation. And so I thank you for joining us. We have some great guests. Both are New York Times bestselling authors. One is an entrepreneur. The other one is a television celebrity. And we will bring on Gerri Willis on first. Gerri Willis, you may have seen Gerri. I hope you have. She's on the Fox Business Network as an anchor and a finance reporter. You may see her on Fox News when the times permit. And she's the author of the best-selling book, Rich is Not a Four-Letter Word. I love that title. It gives you a little fringe of what she's about. And Gerri's going to share with us her journey with a cancer diagnosis that could rock everyone's world. Gerri, are you there?
I'm here. Hello.
There you are. Good to see you, Gerri. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know you're used to being on television. This is a very small television and a small audience to start, but it blossoms. it ripples. So if you don't mind, Gerri, I'd love to ask you how you got from where you were, although we don't dwell in the past much here, but share with us where you were to how you got to where you are right now, not only in business, but also through and when the course of cancer struck.
So I'll give you the short version of this. So I am a little girl from Western North Carolina, very rural roots. My family from a town, population today is 4,000. And that sort of informs all of my points of view, frankly. So I was lucky enough, I've been really lucky in my life, go to college, to work in journalism, to have a great time doing that. And eventually coming to New York City on something they call a Badgett Fellowship to go to school at Columbia Business School. So that was cool. And I didn't have to pay for it, which was even better. And then I just started, working in finance journalism. And ultimately...
But why finance? What stoked you to finance when you can write in any genre?
So... I was working as a political reporter at a tiny newspaper in Ohio called the Lima News, middle of the recession, 1981. And the mayor could do very little to help people. But Ford had was there with a big plant. And they had laid off lots and lots of people. And I reported on how people responded to that. They were exchanging, they had these informal networks where they would exchange toilet paper for light bulbs. And that captivated me. I realized that these companies had a huge impact on people's lives and that often, the political people were running in the background trying to make things happen. And economic forces were really what made a huge difference for so many people in this country. And I felt like there wasn't a lot of understanding of it, and I was interested. So I got hooked. You know, you get hooked into something, it gets more and more interesting the more you know. So somehow I ended up in television, and God knows why, because it was, you know, I was a writer, right? And ended up at Fox Biz. And
when was that?
so that has been 10 years, I think. But before that, I was at CNN for 10 years. So, you know, like I'm the oldest living woman in television. You know what I mean? And I ended up getting breast cancer. And I say it that way because it came as a total shock to me. We don't have a lot of breast cancer in the family. One woman I know of, an aunt. And I just was not at all focused on health. I mean, you know, I worked out and stuff like that, but I never thought that I could be this person who gets cancer. And so it was really rocked my world. And for months and months and months and months and months, I really couldn't take it in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Gerri, but before you go to months and months, let's go to the point where you recognize whether it was a personal screening or a doctor's visit. How did you arrive at the diagnosis or even the symptoms of breast cancer?
So it became obvious. The nipple on my right breast inverted and went into my body, and that breast shrank in size. It was hard to ignore. And, you know, sometimes people willingly look the other way for a while. That's what I did. I willingly looked away for a while. And
how long was that while?
It was probably 2 months.
So we had Mayor Nutter on in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago. He looked away for 4 years.
Wow.
He wouldn't share his initial symptoms with his family. He didn't want to burden them until the time came when his PSA continued to rise. So 2 months is not too bad. But what you're sharing with our audience is that if you feel intuit something is wrong, check it out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And people know their own bodies, right? I mean, you know, this was hard to miss. It was physical. It was right in front of me every time I took a shower. I needed to deal with it. I was putting out a book at the time, and I was so focused on that. It was easy, you know, like I ignored it. Like, even when I went to the doctor took one look at me and said, "This needs to be biopsied." And I said, "Okay, how about next week or later?" And she was like, "No, you're going now, this afternoon." I just, and even months into treatment, the same thing, the same attitude. It took me a very long time to say, okay, this is you, this is your body, it's happening to you, and you've got to be part of the solution.
And Gerri, what was your treatment plan?
So, a mastectomy of my right breast, just took it right off. And then 4 months, 4 months of chemo. So it was the Red Devil and Taxol, equal amounts of both. Boy, did I hate that Red Devil.
Why? Why?
Oh, it hurt. And it made all of my arteries like collapse. You know, every time I went, it was harder to get any of the treatment into my body. And I would get so anxious that my shoulders would be at my ears and my hands would be clenched like this. And that was really the moment that I finally said to myself, you can either help with this or you can stand in the way and do nothing. You better help with this. You better get on board.
Well said.
I don't know why I was the kind of person who took so long to come to the party. Cancer was a new thing to me. Not a lot in my family. Well, we had some in my family, but most of it was from smoking. So I just couldn't. It took me a long time to get on board. But once I was on board, talk about living in the moment. You know, it was like, how's everybody, you know, in radiation therapy today? And, you know,
how long was that? How long was your radiation therapy?
It was a month, 30 days, 5 days a week. And which starts out great. You're like, I can beat this. This is no problem. And then you're like, oh my gosh, my skin is on fire.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
You know that? Yeah.
But then did they give you any goop to put on it?
Oh yeah. Tons of goop. Tons. And let me tell you, I slathered it on.
So did I. I ruined several undershirts, but I didn't care.
Listen, if you want to lose your pride, become a cancer patient, right? I mean, like, after a while, you don't care who sees you naked. A doctor walks up to you, you're taking off your shirt. I mean, it's, it's crazy.
So how did your work support you, or could you work during your cancer treatment plan?
I can't tell you how great Fox was to me. The head of the network at the time would like check in with me and say, "Hey, not when are you coming back to work, Gerri, but how you doing? What can we help you with?" They really were, it's part of the culture there in a situation like this, that they really support people. And I felt like people were really, I'd get emails from people, "You doing okay? Just checking in." And then the Fox audience was unbelievable. I can't, there would be emails, there would be texts, there would be mostly on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, like, "Do you know about this treatment? My wife went through this. Here's what she did. Here's what she did during Taxol to keep from losing her nails." Like really useful information, support, love. It was like an outpouring. And, I know you say that, cancer doesn't, it's, people think I'm crazy when I say this, and I've said it on national TV, so whatever, but it's not all bad. You learn so much. There is so much to learn. And it's...
Well, you just set me up. You just set me up because I've read about you, I followed you, and I saw your 6 things that cancer has taught me. And I even asked Scott, our producer, if he would put them on a scroll and if you would share them with our audience, because this is what the gathering's all about, Gerri. It's people who have firsthand experiential understanding of how to live life to its fullest, even when you feel that this is not a great scenario right now. Right now is not where I want to be. But the universe unfolds perfectly for us so that we do awaken, evolve, and learn. And what have you learned?
Well, it's been incredible. So first of all, I kind of shrank into myself, right? But then all of a sudden you're surrounded.
No, wait. Stay there. Give us your shrunken self. What do you mean by that?
I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I was told next steps, but like, yikes, right?
And someone of your stature being on TV who is courageous and someone who is in your face is not used to being that way.
I never thought of it like that. But this was a totally new thing. This was like out of left field, right? Previously my bad days would be like, my hair doesn't look right, or maybe I forgot a fact, or this was like a little more serious, this was different. And I started meeting all these people who had had experiences with cancer. People that I had known at work for years would come to me and say, "Here's my experience." And I had never known that they had faced this. Mm-hmm. Out of the blue came this wellspring of support. Cancer is everywhere. I tell the story about how one day I'm sitting in a restaurant up in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts with my husband, and I'm really proud to be out, right? I'm very excited. And a woman comes over to me, puts her arm around me and says, "You look beautiful." Mm. I've got a stocking cap on my head because I'm bald, and she knows what's going on. And out of the blue, she comes over. So I start crying. There's a lot of crying in cancer, and not always for bad reason, right? Because you're so overwhelmed by the fact that the universe just sort of opens up in front of you. It's
love. You see love. You see that people are good and that love is everywhere. It sounds like a movie, but nevertheless, it makes you cry when you see something like that. And I see Scott put up your first learning. You're never alone.
You're never alone. So many people. And I mean, that is the most, the emotional journey that I took was the most satisfying of my life. You know, I mean,
So, Gerri, this, our bracelet, our healed bracelet, that one green bead, that's what that represents. You're not alone. We are in this together. Not only the oneness, but the beingness that we all are. The I that I am is the same Gerri as Daniel, as Pat. That's the beauty. And so when you felt that lady come up and hug you, it was just a merging of you with the oneness of the universe. I just love you're not alone. You're never alone. What's your what's your second learning?
well, if you want to beat it, you've got to have your priorities in the right order, right? I mean, this is always true, but it's like double down on this when you've been diagnosed. And what happened that made me sort of see this in close up and personal is that there are people, if you're a woman and you're, you know, there you are in treatment, you're going to be in chemo, there are people who will claim to help you save your hair from loss. You know, that the hair goes, the eyebrows go, the lashes go, everything falls out. And if you've seen me from my early CNN days, the hair was a big part of what was going on. There was lots of hair. It was stacked high, right? And so I sort of explored this and thought about it. And then I thought, so let me just tell you how they do this. They ice your scalp, because if you ice the scalp, then, you know, like the chemo doesn't get to the scalp because the blood isn't circulating there, right? You stop the circulation of the blood, therefore it doesn't get there, and you can possibly save your hair. So I suddenly realized that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard, right? A, really expensive, and B, who wants to sit with an ice cap on their head? Good Lord. Nobody wants to do that. And I had I got to tell the story quickly. So, you know, I bought a really expensive wig. I mean, like $1,000, right? Because of this whole hair thing. And the more I wore it, the more depressed I was. I just could not. It was like, oh my God, I look like I've got a squirrel on my head. And I would be on TV, you know? So finally I was like, I ditched it. I went on air with like a half inch of hair, like, F it, you know, like this is who I am now. So if you don't like it, whatever.
Beautiful.
But I just, and I
now that's beautiful.
Better. That is so much better. That just relaxed me. And I felt like, okay, now I can be myself.
That's so good. Such a great share. Next, give us number 3.
All right. Let's see. Gratitude. Okay. This is huge and unexpected, an unexpected gift from cancer. So I was raised as a Christian, and part of the whole ethos is gratitude to God. You have to be thankful and humble. But being in cancer treatment, I would be outside our house in the Berkshires and taking a walk out in the trees, the sun, and the tears would just be streaming down my face. I would just start, because I was so happy and so just the gratitude for being able to be there that day, that moment. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. And there I was. I got to experience that.
That's called an awakening. That's truly an awakening when you can really appreciate whatever the universe is unfolding before you is for you. That is wonderful. And one thing I realized in the waiting room and the radiation therapy is that, wow, they're way worse than me. Like, whoa, there's some serious cancer diagnosis going on here.
That's right. That's right.
Gratitude, what an attitude. And you'll find at the end of this gathering, Gerri, we share a gratitude prayer, just a little brief one that it's the ending of this. Next, give me number 4. These are great.
Well, you can't have control all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, wake up and smell the coffee. That was, so when I first started out and they laid out my treatment path, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this. Right? I got stuff to do. I got places to go. I got stories to report, people to interview. And, you know, eventually going to all those doctor appointments, seeing the nurse, it finally breaks it down. And you're finally like, oh yeah, you're not in charge right now. You are not the captain of the ship. You can't call the shots here. It's not up to you. And you better start reaching out and being thankful to the people who are calling the shots right now and helping you. So that, I mean, that was that, you know, and I just had a girlfriend go through the same thing. And I told her that I was out away from work I went in for a few weeks, but essentially I was out for 9 months. And she said, oh my God, I can't do that. And that's the attitude you have when you start out, is like, oh, I could never possibly. Well, you might have to. It might have to be that way, right? So that was
a pure acceptance, a surrender, a welcoming, as opposed to resistance. And once you learn that resistance will get you nowhere but suffering, you just throw up your hands and say, okay. And that's where you have no control. And we don't drive the bus.
right.
We don't drive the bus. Number 5.
Make room for spirituality. And I know this is a big thing for you, right?
Yes.
So I have this, my brother's a Presbyterian minister. I was raised Presbyterian. I have a great-grandfather who was a circuit-riding Baptist minister, which means that he preached for food for his very large family, would run around the county preaching.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. So, I mean, this was years and decades and turn of the century kind of stuff, right? But I definitely, there is so much revealed to you that is positive that it's hard not to be spiritual. When you go through this process, so many uplifting things happen to me, happen to so many people I talk to who go through this, that it's hard not to be spiritual about it. And people think you're there because you're desperate. But in reality, what's going on is that you're just amazed. How could this be? You're so thankful. So you have to do something to connect with that, right? And to really be a part of that. Does that
You
make
realize
sense?
you realize you are a part of that supreme consciousness, because you become more conscious of the entire universe, not your own separate self. And from there, it's almost like an inner glow, an inner spirit that you share your presence with anyone who's in your space. And it's beautiful, beautiful. And amazingly, Gerri, it takes most people some sort of trauma, injury, illness, or deathbed experience to get to where you are right now. And so what we try to do in here in the gathering is help people not to choose to suffer. It's a choice. Open yourself up. As everything you're saying, be grateful, surrender, make room. And
there are so many positive things, right? There's so many, like, this is part of my problem with being a journalist, because I'm always like, this will work out. This will be like, part of my personal setup is optimism. And then going through this experience, seeing like the positive in the universe and things, it's amazing how good things are out there.
So well said. Amen. And number 6.
Number 6. What is my number 6?
I don't know. Oh, I got it. I know. It's a teacher.
Oh.
Cancer is a tough teacher. Isn't that number 6?
Yes, I didn't do that one. And that is absolutely true. And I think we've been talking about nothing but this for the last several minutes. You know, you have to listen to it, and you have to be willing to be guided by that voice. And cancer is the teacher for how you can reset yourself to be more open and to be more grateful. And it's a teacher, but it can be a positive. It can be a good teacher, right?
All teachers are good. See, I believe all teachers are good. We, in the mind, have a preference. I don't like that one, or I like that one. No, anything that unfolds before you is for you. And this cancer diagnosis that you had and the journey and adventure you went through it was a beautiful teacher for you, and therefore you shared the lesson plan with everyone else. I think it's truly wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I so enjoy listening to you talk because it really crystallizes my own feelings and thoughts about what I've been through.
Now, I can't let you leave yet. We have Daniel Freedman coming on. But before you leave, just share with us what happened several years after the breast cancer diagnosis.
Well, so I didn't get cancer in the other breast. That was positive, right? That didn't.
Yes, very.
But I got HPV, and we couldn't seem to get rid of it. Everybody has HPV. This is, a virus that can manifest itself as cancer. So I ended up having surgery for that. It was a lot less personally threatening than the breast cancer was because it was so much less far along when we found it. But, now.
And how did you find it? How did you find it? This is important for our audience.
Pap smear. Get the pap smear. Do all the screens. You've got to do the screens. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family. You know what people don't realize is that we're not just talking about, and I think this is a problem women often have, we're not just talking about making yourself happy, right? It's everybody else around you, right? Like you got to keep yourself up for them, right? Like you've got to, it's a gift to them.
You're a gift. You're a gift to us.
You.
Thank you, Gerri. Just sit on the bench. I'll be bringing you back shortly.
Okay.
And now we're going to bring on our second guest, a serial entrepreneur, Daniel Freedman. He has a company called BurnAlong, and this is new. I've never heard of it before. He's written. He comes in all kinds of backgrounds, but he wrote a book, a bestseller, a top 10 New York Times bestseller, The Black Banners, the inside story of 9/11 and Al-Qaeda. So he has security. He's been all over the place, but I want him to share with us his journey because this BurnAlong is not something that came from nowhere. There was some experience that stimulated this entrepreneur to put his intelligence and his background and his resources into creating something for all of us. Daniel, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me, Pat. And that was just terrific hearing the segment with Gerri. It's inspiring to hear.
Thank you. Wasn't she beautiful? Like that just was such, I got tingles.
Yeah.
So Daniel, tell us let's go right to the stimulus on, you started BurnAlong for what reason?
Yeah, so I started BurnAlong with my partner, Mike Cott, for very personal journeys that we experienced, very similar. So in my case, it was with my now late grandmother, she died just over 5 years ago. She was just the light of my life, the most incredible woman. And for the last 10 or so years of life, she had cancer. And then from that and that experience, she went through depression. She gained a lot of weight and got transformed from being this life and soul of every party and every event where, like as a kid, I felt my friends were coming to see her rather than to see me. She was just that much fun. To it got to the point where unless a family member came round, she just wouldn't get out of bed. And the question that really began to haunt me as I was literally on the other side of the world working with governments and prison cells was, why with today's technology, when you're at home and you most need the support of others and you most need specific content, are you cut off from them? And that started just originally with me searching for a solution for her that myself and my siblings and family members could use with her when we couldn't be there in person to get her out of bed and moving around.
Okay, Daniel, let's stop there. So your grandmother had this effect on you, and you come up with this idea. How? It's a how. How can I help my grandmother get her butt out of bed, move along, and return to what I loved in her passion and energy? Where were you? You said you were across the world, and what were you doing that you could even generate some kind of solution? Like most people would say, how can you do that? But you came up with a solution. Where did that come from? What kind of background?
Yeah, so before that, I mean, I've worked in policy, worked at places like the United Nations, and then spent 5 years working with folks in the intelligence world on rehabilitation programs.
What does that mean?
So not your kind of rehabilitation that you normally talk about, Pat, but how when people have joined gangs and terrorist groups, rather than just locking them up, how you can change behavior and rehabilitate them back into society.
Wow.
Whether it's someone who's Al-Qaeda, Jamaat Islamiyah, different groups around the world, you don't want to just keep people locked up, and especially people who you're going to have to release. You don't want them to rejoin the group when they leave. And so the focus was, how do you change their behaviors to when they leave, they're on a different path. And that's really always been my interest, is human behavior and how you change it. And the experience with my grandmother, I said, well, why can't we apply those lessons to the wellness world? And then just very rapidly saw that to date, people have been taking largely a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to online and access, and the reaction that we've been getting from doctors, hospitals, employers for their employees has just been terrific.
Okay, so take us into BurnAlong now. What exactly is, and how'd you come up with the name?
So BurnAlong, the name Burn is about passion and being passionate and doing things, and Along is together, which is, it's all about community, it's all about support, it's all about people like you, wherever you are in life, wherever you are in your wellness journey. And our clients today range from the US government, the US military. We have cities. Philadelphia is a client of ours, as an example. We have sports teams. I know your backgrounds. The Milwaukee Bucks is a client of ours, but
beautiful.
Blue collar, white collar, you name the company, you name the industry, factories, hedge funds, they use us for their employees.
And what do they use you for?
Yeah. So what we do is we have now more than 2,000 instructors teaching live and on-demand classes for their employees and for the family members of their employees across more than 45 categories of programming. And this is not just your classic cardio and yoga classes. There's classes focused on cancer. There's classes for different chronic conditions. It's focusing on an entire population. And that was just the lesson, just to complete the journey for you, Pat, is once had the experience with my grandmother and we started searching for a solution, we saw there wasn't a solution for her or for others. And that was the reaction from doctors for when patients are at home. How can they stay connected to the instructors, the therapists, others who've been helping them and are so important to their journey? And how can you layer in their family, their friends, or others like them for social support to do it? And then the former president and global head of HR of IKEA, who's a friend and she's on our board, she said, look, this is where we're focused as a company as well. It's not how do you get a 22-year-old with a six-pack exercising more. It's what about the rest of the population? And if you open up, the App Store today, you're going to see 40,000 fitness and wellness apps, but the imagery that you're going to see is going to be dominated by 22-year-olds with six-packs. And it's going to be focused on just cardio and yoga and a handful of other categories. But you think about the need of the population as an employer, as a community, it's very, very different. And so what's incredible about BurnAlong today is, on the one end, our youngest users are 6 weeks old. We've got Mummy and Me classes, or even before that, we got prenatal programming. Our oldest users are in their late 90s with arthritis, cancer, different chronic conditions, and right the way through. And what's especially important and something we feel incredibly passionate about, and we're changing the narrative in the way that employers think about it, Pat, is employers typically would just offer for their employees cardio, yoga, and a handful of classes and saying, this is what you get, this is wellness for you. And if they offered anything for people with diabetes or people battling cancer or people in wheelchairs, it was something off to the side, completely separate from the rest of the population. Most like to say don't offer anything. And so we've taken this approach saying it's the responsibility of employers to provide their population, their employees and their employees' family with whatever programming that they need. And so we have children with cancer who are doing programming from their hospital beds where they're taking classes, but they've also got the social support of their friends from back home live with them.
No.
central to BurnAlong is both. We give you the programming wherever you are, and it could be in a hospital room, it could be in your living room, it could be in your office. But we also enable you to do the programming live with others that you invite if you want it. So we are actually seeing and hearing others. And it's that social support that's so important in reminding people, especially people struggling, that you're not alone and there is this community behind you.
Oh, that's beautiful. The community, especially in the cancer world, requires our caregivers to be part of that experience. Otherwise, we found from Dr. Erica Reese-Pania, who is doing the HEALed research down in Atlanta, Cancer Society's headquarters, that 70% was her statistic, remain on the couch after they survive cancer. They may do a little, but relatively nothing compared to what we talk about, health and energy through active living every day. And so specifically, how can BurnAlong help as a cancer survivor?
Yeah. So with that challenge, you think about it, of everything that you're going through when you're surviving cancer, and at the end of the day, you're exhausted, and maybe I should be doing some stretches, I should be doing mindfulness, I should be doing programming, but you're just exhausted. And it's much easier just to remain on that couch and be in that 70% and say, I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll watch a movie instead. And important to note that it's not just cancer survivors who deal with that challenge. That's the entire population, not just people who are surviving cancer or battling arthritis or diabetes or whatever the challenge. 80% of the population in this country, and it's the same globally, don't get the recommended levels of exercise. It's very hard to find that motivation. So what we do to help you not be in that 70%, but be in that other 30%, is two things. Number one, we're going to bring you to your home, live or on demand, an instructor or a therapist who you're going to find relatable. And it
wait a second. You said live. You bring an instructor to the person's home?
So online live. So
okay.
just like we are live with each other,
Gotcha.
Instructors can be live, and you can be taking a class from an instructor that 3 weeks beforehand you were in person with.
And knows your name.
And knows your name. They
knows your diagnosis.
And you know them. It's that comforting, it's that comfort of knowing you know what they're going to do, you know who they are, you know it works for you, you have that emotional connection, which is so important. And then number two, what we enable you to do is you can do that class on your own, or you can have your friends, family members, favorite co-workers live with you. And so the reason why you're going to show up at 8 o'clock and not be in that at night and not be in that 70% for so many people is because they know that their children or grandchildren, for example, are there on the screen waiting for them, or another cancer survivor who they know is waiting on the screen for them.
And how do you do this? How do you do this for someone like Gerri, who when she was recuperating, does she provide you with names of family members or friends, or how does that work, that you create the community that's really going to give you the impetus to stay with it?
Exactly. So you can be matched up with people in a couple of different ways. One, it can be just people immediately, your friends, your family members who are trying to support you. It's one of the, people are always asking, how can we help? What can we do? Often it's, I would love to be at your house every day, but I can't physically make it because I'm 3 hours away and I can't do that drive every day. You can just coordinate, put it into your schedule. Okay, every day I'm going to be live at 8 o'clock. We get so many people who, as part of their support of their family members who are battling cancer, every Monday and Thursday, their family member knows that they're waiting on the screen for them.
Oh, that is great. That is, see, I don't know if our viewers know this, but as a physical therapist and an athletic trainer, Daniel, in the past, I know that most people didn't want to do what I suggested they do. And eventually when they saw it working, they would do it for me more than for themselves. And then eventually they got addicted, or it worked. And they saw experientially the progress, and then they continued. So to have this community element, I think is brilliant. Brilliant. How's it working?
It's terrific. I mean, what we see are 5 times the engagement levels of the general population. So people are turning up, and then you ask people, why are they turning up on this regular basis? And these are often people who've never done anything beforehand. Why are they turning up? 2 things. One is, I'm seeing instructors on the screen who I find relatable. So you think about, even you go to hospital, you then come out, often you're given a piece of paper and saying, this is what you should do from home. that's just not motivating. But when you see that person who you know, you trust, you've got that emotional connection, you're going to do it. Back to your point, the people who are doing it for you, I'm going to show up because I know that my therapist, my trainer, is going to hold me accountable, and I'm going to get a text message and a reminder if I didn't do it. That's one level of accountability. But then number two is the social component. I mean, nothing is more powerful to someone than, we've got people in their 90s who's hadn't been doing things for 20, 30 years. And why are they showing up now? And their doctors ask them, like, what's changed? It's not that the doctor's instruction have changed. Doctors tell us all every year, even for people who aren't battling anything, what you need to do. But the people are showing up because they've got their children or grandchildren waiting for them, or their best friend. It's that community, it's that social piece that makes it. And one of the things that we're probably most proud of is when we look at the employers who use us for their populations, what they see is not only are more people from their population doing programming, is people who've never before done programming. And almost 30%, it's 29% of programming is in the specialty area. So it's things like cancer, huge area for us. It's diabetes, it's adaptive workouts for people with disabilities. And for an employer after employer, what they say to us is, number one, we can't believe we had this need because we weren't offering it beforehand. And we feel good now that we're helping our population and giving them what they need. And then the stories that they're sharing about their population. I just got a note this morning, and it's just eerie timing. One of our team members just shared it, of someone whose her child is a cancer survivor, and they are now 12 weeks into this into it, and just talking about it. And this is important to note, it's not just for adults, it's children as well. We're focused on an entire population through life's journey, whatever age you are, geography, meeting you where you are.
Daniel, I rudely interrupted you because I got so excited about your community portion of it. You talked about the trainer, getting to know the trainer. You talked about the community, getting involved with family and friends. Was there a third component?
Yeah, the third component to what we do is on the machine learning side of providing you guidance along that journey. So as it pertains to cancer, as an example, maybe you come to us and you start taking cardio classes, and maybe you've been recommended some strength building classes. But then based on what reviews you're leaving of classes, you're saying, like, this class is great for me, I'm leaving a 5-star review. Based on your profile, maybe we know that likely you might be dealing with insomnia as well. Is that right? So maybe here's some sleep yoga classes for you. Or maybe you need to think about what you're eating. So here's some recommended nutrition classes. So it's taking you along that journey. It's not a static experience of just come back to this one class. The machine learning side is guiding you through that journey of what people like you have worked for you. Because ultimately, and this is probably the most important point, Pat, what we are building is we want to be in the position to know that someone can come to us and saying, listen, I'm a 40-year-old woman and I'm a cancer survivor. And we know, based on who you are, where you are in the country, the different things you've told us about you, what programming to deliver to you, what social support to make sure that you get to help you be that best self and get to where you want to go. That's what we're building.
And BurnAlong is how old?
So we're 5 years old.
How much did you need to raise to launch at least the first phase?
So initially we bootstrapped it and then raised a couple of $100,000 to get going. We are very fortunate, and this is an important piece to mention, is our model as an online company is not to replace the in-person. So our approach is we partner with thousands of brick and mortar gyms, studios, wellness experts who work in hospitals, and we serve as their online extension.
Oh. And
they use us both for their existing patients and members, and also through us to reach a global audience. Because one of the things is, as you know, as an instructor, is people become instructors and therapists because they are looking to help people. You're not doing it for the glory or the riches. It's you are doing it to help people. And so people, they want to make sure that their patients, their members, stay connected with them online and are continuing that journey. And they also want to reach people who they've never reached before. So with us, it could be, in Philadelphia, most of the YMCAs in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania are our partners of ours. and they use BurnAlong for their members. They also put their classes onto BurnAlong to reach a global audience. Now, you could be someone in the middle of rural France or someone in the middle of Kenya or anywhere in the world, and now you can access that quality programming that you've never had access beforehand. But we are not looking to replace the in-person. We partner with the person. And the same when we work with hospitals. So we've got a partnership, for example, with the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, focused on MS and disabilities. We serve as the online extension, but also for them, it's about reaching a broader audience with programming and giving people the programming that they need.
And Daniel, what's your ultimate intention for BurnAlong?
I mean, this is going to be a life's journey for me. My grandmother was just the closest person to me in the world. And, unfortunately, this was too late for her.
I was going to ask that. Were you able to launch it prior to her leaving us?
We started it, so she understood what we were doing, but it was too late to help her in the way that I would have wanted. But I literally get reminded every day of people like her who were helping and who are sending notes. And so I feel that this is the way that I'm honoring her memory and making sure that it's a different outcome for different people.
And what's one last thing you want to tell our audience about BurnAlong and your intention?
I say the really important thing is that it's never too late to start, and also urging employers to understand is just as you're responsible for people's health insurance, you need to think about your entire population and make sure you're looking after everyone, not just the young and active.
It's back to the point of Gerri, we're on this together, right? It's the unity. Daniel, thank you. I really want to check out BurnAlong. It sounds fabulous, especially coming from my background. It's such a needed activity. Now, I'm just going to ask you to hang. I forgot. I was excited to bring you on. I'm going to interject before I bring you and Gerri back on. I just did a mindfulness moment, Daniel, I think you'll like and Gerri will like. 6ABC, which is our presenting sponsor and our media partner who helped us launch ACS Healed. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are. In addition to our leadership partners who helped raise the $2 million so far. They've asked me to do mindfulness moments. I started by writing and creating 8 of them. 6ABC produced them. They haven't aired them yet, not at all. There's only one completed right now that will be aired shortly. So this is a tease for you to see first. And then they're fun. They're just a way to take the noise out of the head and bring you into the present moment. So Scott, if you'll air our first mindfulness moment.
Hi, I'm Pat Croce, and I got a great meditative technique for you to quiet your mind. I call it the meditative breath wave. Anyone can do it anytime, anywhere, requires no equipment. In fact, I recommend this in the seat of your car, with your hands on the steering wheel, before you turn on the ignition. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to describe it first. We're going to take a deep breath in through our nose, bring it up 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, and then let it out for 5 seconds. So 15-second breath. But now I want you to engage your creativity. I want you to imagine a wave at the balls of your feet from the ocean surface, and on the first 5 seconds, as you inhale, the wave comes up your body. 5, 4, 3, shoulders all the way to your head, and then hold that crest of the wave right here above your head for 5 seconds, and then let it wash down over you for the last 5 seconds, washing away negative thoughts, emotions, moods, and attitudes. Let it wash it all away till it hits the soles of the feet back on the ground again. And you can use anything. I use 5, 5, and 5. You can use 6, 6, and 6. But whatever you use it to surf your way to peace. Thank you for taking part with me in this 6ABC mindfulness moment. Learn how you can join our ACS Healed movement at 6abc.com or wherever you stream 6ABC.
Here you go. That was a little rough, I guess, because the volume was up and down and in and out, but we're using some video on this platform, so we don't know how anything works. We're just trying different things. So Gerri and Daniel, please come back on. There we go. There's Gerri and there's Daniel. Beautiful smiles. Now, Gerri, do you have any questions for Daniel or Daniel for Gerri?
I have questions.
Please.
So,
Oh, you're the report. Here we go. Now we got the.
You know who the
host.
professional reporter is. I couldn't even raise my hand before Joe.
So I was curious, do you see any change in outcomes with your programming? Have you been able to compare, like, whether people have done better using these programs? And, okay, a money question. Are you public? Are you going public?
So in terms of outcomes, so we are working with hospitals, and we also work with like the military actually in the cancer area as well for people in the military with cancer, and we are measuring it. Now it's not news to anyone that if you're doing programming, it's going to help your outcome. The big question is, how do you motivate people to do it? And that's what we're tracking, and all the early indicators and the leading indicators. And this is why the biggest insurers and hospitals in the country are partnering with us, are all in that positive, all positive indications, as well as obviously the testimonials that we're getting. So we're putting together different studies, but all indicators are saying that it's making a huge difference.
And her second question was, are you going public?
Not public yet. We're a private company.
All right. Sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't it, Gerri? So
yeah.
How do people get exposed to it though, Daniel?
So most people get access through their employer or their insurer, as well as people can also go directly to BurnAlong as individuals and sign up. But employers and insurers generally give it to their groups as well, or often through your local gym or studio, or sometimes doctor and specialist.
And Gerri, this question's for you from me. As a cancer survivor, your body as a cancer survivor, you transcended cancer. I mean, that's just the body has undergone some changes. And what did you do to continue an active living lifestyle during and after your cancer treatments?
So I became more oriented to the outside during cancer. So I continued that and doubled down on that. Hiking. I have a toy poodle now. And he's a great hiker. He totally gets it. He really knows how to do that. He's like a 7-month-old toy poodle named Rufus, and he loves to hike. So I do that. Through COVID, that has been another kind of like challenge, Dan, as I'm sure you're aware, to try to like get the exercise. So I use an app on my phone, and I do a lot of exercise that way. That way I can kind of tailor, one day is going to be high impact intensity, and then weight training. And I try to do that in the morning every day of the week. And then on weekends, it's hiking and golf and, just movement, just activity does a lot for this up here. The muscle I'm really trying to work is this one. You know what I mean?
Scream it, girl. Scream it. That's really right. Scream it. And you know what muscle that works? And Dan, you'll love this too. I tell people that the greatest muscle that you can strengthen is the let it go muscle. So when those thoughts come into your head that tend to cause you angst, some sort of pulling you into the past or projecting you into the future, anything out of the now, you learn to let it go, whether it's through meditation, mindfulness. But the more you can let it go, like being in nature, because you're not worried about the future when you're walking on a nature's course, on a path, or walking the dog. Who's more present than your pet, right?
So
your
true.
pet doesn't care what she or he looks like later on. It's just so much presence. And Gerri brought up something about her strength training, Daniel. Relative to BurnAlong, is there equipment necessary?
So there's stuff if you have equipment, right, from Pilates reformers to weights, and then there's tons without equipment. So you indicate, do I have equipment? Do I not have equipment? What equipment do I have access to? And then you can do it. And I guess Gerri, the question that I was gonna ask you is, did you get social? I mean, you spoke about it before of all the outpouring of support that you got from people. It's clear, but I would love you to talk about it. It's like, what's the impact that had on you of people cheering you on and all those people being there for you in such a visible way?
So it was just, it buoyed me. It lifted me up. Right. And I realized that I had an obligation to more than just me. Right. It wasn't just about me and here we are and the cancer and all in our head. It was, oh, there's, other people out there and I need to be there for them too. So I'll never forget, we had the founder of Komen on our network. She's been on and off Fox for a long time. And I saw her when I was going through all of this, and I came over to her and I took both of her hands and I said, when I get done with this, I'm coming to you and I'm going to work for you. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow. So, Gerri, give us one message that you want to share with our audience. One strong message from Gerri Willis to the world.
Optimism doesn't cost anything. Focusing on the positive will help you in ways that maybe you can't see right now. I once met a woman who was in my position. She was recovering from cancer. And she said, I get up every morning, Gerri, and I worry it's coming back. This never occurred to me. I don't live there. You can't live in that. You've got to live on the positive side. You have to focus forward and what can be done and you can do. We're not guaranteed any time here, right? You gotta do what you can do while you can. And enjoy it like Dan does. Dan's like doing great work, right? How exciting is he?
Beautiful. Daniel, your message to the world.
Yeah, I'd say that you're never alone. And there is a community, there are others like you. That's exactly what this is all about. And that can be the source of inspiration for you, but also can be how you can help others by bringing them to communities like this. I say, like, you never need to be alone. That would be my prime message.
You both brought to me that I'm going to share with you. There's a famous Sufi mystic called Hafiz, who I love. There's Rumi and Hafiz. And he says in the morning when he gets up, God, what love mischief can we do for the world today? Isn't that a great outlook? What love mischief? The loving at the same time, a little conniving and cunning and curiosity, can we do together for the world today? And that's what we do. That's what, Daniel, you're doing. Gerri, that is what you have done and continue to do. And I want to thank you both for joining our ACS Healed gathering. You've been wonderful guests. And I took several notes. I'm going to take more notes and download after you get off. And I always end this gathering with a prayer. But it's a prayer of gratitude, not a petitionary prayer. We're not asking for anything. It's just thank you for the grace in helping me to welcome what is happening right now. And that requires grace, because through conditioning, we're pulled out of the now and we start worrying and we pray for something to change. No, just as you mentioned earlier, Gerri, is one of your 6 things you've learned from cancer. Thank you for the grace in helping me welcome what is right now. Daniel, Gerri, peace to you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Oh.